What's good in the hood YouTube? This is Crazy Sam Wrestling 1 here, bringing you guys some videos. Today I'm bringing you guys a video on Kamen Rider Geo episode 9. This episode is called Genm Master 2016, and this episode overall was really good. It featured the appearance of Don Karuto and Eiji Hino, as well as Izumi, Hina Izumi. Eiji Hino and Hina Izumi are from Kamen Rider O's, and Don Karuto is from Kamen Rider X8. You may be wondering why X8 is even getting a focus here. Well, because Don Karuto is very popular, so they wanted to do some sort of reference with him, and they decided to include it as this kind of mixed tribute with Kamen Rider O's, which is interesting. So again, this episode has Genm, and the next episode has O's as the focus. So but at the same time, it's sort of like they're connected in the same way that Forza and Fives was connected in that way. You know what I mean? So that's how they're doing things. So this episode, the title, I've mentioned this before with different titles, that they always reference something or connect it in some way. Genm Master is actually supposed to be really, when you translate it a certain way, it's supposed to actually be referencing Game Master, which is a name that like Don Karuto was known by, like one of his aliases. So that's kind of where they go getting with that. This episode, as far as things go, introduces one new ride to watch, which is cool. Next episode will introduce another one as well, but we'll get into that. So anyway, the episode begins with us seeing that at some kind of pool, like bar location or whatever, we end up seeing that Wool and Schwartz, and I believe it's also Hora, are all there, and they are discussing different things regarding their mission. Again, one thing that's something that we really don't fully understand up until now, which is that they're actually trying to find a new king to replace the current one because of what's been happening and how things are shifting and things are changing. So they don't want to be in the situation where suddenly their current king doesn't exist. And so they need to find a new king, which that new king might actually end up being who Oma Geo actually is. And that's something to note. Because again, that's what is really probably going on. They're trying to find a king to really represent them. So in this case, what happens is that Wool says that he will make an effort no matter what to find that king that truly can hold his own and be the king that they need him to be. Because the thing is that all these other people have been very weak and aren't able to showcase that they are deserving of this strength. So what happens is that we end up seeing that it's modern day now, and Sugo, Gaze, and everyone are discussing different things. Suddenly, Sugo's uncle comes in and he ends up saying, "Turn on the TV, we gotta watch this." So suddenly they end up watching this report regarding the Don Company, which is the this company related to Don Karuto. And what happens is that Don Karuto ends up seeing he's all dazzled up, and he's dressed in such, interesting garments. And what happens is that he claims himself to be Don Karuto, which the way that they say it is referencing like Don Koro King. So it's different than like Don Karuto as in like his name. It's like Don Koro King instead, which is interesting. Which makes Sugo pretty happy because he wants to become a king, so he's seeing this guy that is a king, and so he wants to learn from him and learn how to be a king from him. So what happens is that he goes off. The uncle asks to bring back some chicken breast. To bring back some chicken, but the uncle doesn't want him to bring back chicken breast. He wants him to bring back chicken thighs, but he runs off already, going towards Don Karuto, and so then Gaze and Tsukiyomi end up heading off as well to tell him what's going on, and also to figure out different things. When they end up reaching the location of it, they realize that they can't get in through the front entrance. So at that point, what happens is that they end up having to go in through a different entrance. One thing we also see is that when Don Karuto is first seen, he ends up actually using he actually ends up using a a metal which turns one of the people into a monster, and the monster is actually pretty interesting because it's one that references Kamen Rider Oz's villains, which are the white yummies. The yummies, if you know how they're supposed to work, are these kind of mummy-like creatures that their main desire is to they want to they want to devour the person's object of desire, such as anything. It could be anything that they care about, and if they digest, and the idea is that their desires birth from digest them into cell metals, and once consuming enough, a white yummy transforms into a complete yummy, modeled after a general animal motif, which is something that references like Kamen Rider O's. If you watched O's, like that's a whole thing. So that's why yummies are actually kind of significant. There's a whole story to it. If you've watched Kamen Rider O's, there's so much to why yummies are important. And they're more important like early on in Kamen Rider O's, but they're still relevant in general. So anyway, what does end up happening is that we end up seeing these yummies. We do end up seeing that eventually, Don Kuroto speaks to Sugo. Eventually, at one point, what happens is that they end up confronting him, and also end up confronting these yummies, and they actually use Gaze and Sugo end up using Wizard and Forze's ride watches, which is really cool to see both of them since those seasons happen one after another. So we actually get to see Sugo using Forze and Gaze using Wizard, which is really cool. Wizard we just got last episode, and Forze we got a couple episodes ago, but that's still really, really awesome. So we get to see all that, which is really great. Then what happens is that eventually there's a point where Don Kuroto drops one of his ride watches, and it's actually the Genm ride watch, which is interesting that he actually has it. But what happens is that when they look at it, it says 2016, so they think, oh, let's go to 2016. What happens is that Sugo ends up going after Don Kuroto. In the meantime, what we end up seeing is that Gaze and Tsukuyomi go to the year 2016 because they see this ride watch. When they go there, though, they find that apparently Don Kuroto already has the form of another O's. Because that's the thing that we actually see. He actually has the form of another O's. And in this case, at that point, he had already killed his father. That's at least what's assumed, that he probably killed his father. And the thing is that he now is able to become king. So instead what happens is we end up seeing that Gaze ends up having to get into a fight with Don Kuroto. Don Kuroto gets some yummies as well. And we end up seeing that eventually Don Kuroto uses the another O's, form a bunch. And also Gaze ends up using the Genm armor, which is really cool to see as well. The Genm armor borrows a lot of similar looks to the X8 armor, mainly just a repaint for the most part, but still very cool. So what that likely means is that in the next couple of episodes or so, we'll probably have a point where we'll see the X8 and the Genm armor being used in the show. I would imagine it's going to happen. Believe me, if it doesn't, I'll be very surprised. So that's still very good to see. As far as things go, otherwise, what we do end up seeing is that Sugo is trying to confront Don Kuroto. He wants to gain his attention. Don Kuroto is not someone that is so willing to, talk to him at first, but eventually he, because of the fact that he wants to learn from him, Don Kuroto treats him as a retainer at first, and so what happens is that, like, he's interested in observing him. The woman that he's with finds him crazy, but like Sugo doesn't really fully understand it because he's kind of naive about certain things. And so what happens is that we end up seeing that eventually he ends up discovering an important point about the past, and also at one point Tsukuyomi discovers the fact that where Don Kuroto actually came from with his form, which is the O's form, is from 2010, because they actually see on the uniform the 2010 symbol. Now, the reason why this is important also is because when Gaze ends up defeating this another rider, it comes back to life, meaning that yes, it has to be from a different time. What I also forgot to mention is that at one point we end up seeing the THBD, which is important as well because we knew about the Watchroid a while ago, but it was a question of when it was going to actually be introduced, which is something that references Kamen Rider O's. So that is something to note. What we do end up seeing is that eventually they travel back to the past, and we end up seeing that Gaze and Geo end up getting into a fight with each other. We see that Gaze automatically transforms, and also, by the way, Sugo ends up dressing up to fight alongside Don Koroto, and so they get into this battle, and that basically makes Gaze want to fight. And what happens is that eventually Sugo ends up using the build armor, and he ends up managing to do really well against Gaze to the point that he actually defeats him in battle, and he has to go back to the year 2018 to get healed up by Sugo's uncle. So that is something to note. And basically he becomes the head of the Royal Guard. Don Koroto appoints him that role at that point. And we then end up seeing that the Diet, which is this group that's important to note, we end up seeing that Eiji and Izumi, Hina Izumi are there, and basically Eiji wants to protect her. And the thing is that it's probably likely that he has no idea who he was as a Kamen Rider, so that is something to note as well. There is a point where we end up seeing a flashback referencing how Don Koroto gained the form, although we don't get to see the full context of the situation, and that will probably be revealed in the next episode. But that is something to note. As far as things go with the preview, we do end up seeing the ride armor for O's, and we also see another person using that form as well, which is something to note as well, because why are there two? Again, we'll have to wait and see about all that. That stuff hasn't been officially confirmed as of now as to what the whole story is. We'll probably know that next episode. And then episode 10 will be the Kamen Rider Genm focused episode, which I'm looking forward to a lot as well. So all that is good to note. I'm especially curious about what will happen after the Genm episodes are done. I think there's supposed to be 2 episodes, and as far as things go after that, I'll be very curious to see, because really I have no idea what's coming after Genm. I'm very much so curious, and I'm looking forward to finding that out, but I have no idea right now after Genm. It could be a number of things. Hopefully it'll be a season that people are looking forward to, but we'll have to wait and see which one it will be. I really do not know. As far as things go otherwise, I really enjoyed this episode again. I liked what they did with the characters. I thought that Don Koroto's appearance was good. I'm looking forward to seeing how Eiji will work in the next episode, and then even seeing the small reference to which episode it will be from Kamen Rider O's that they'll be pulling from. And just in general, seeing Eiji is really cool. I mean, I'm very happy about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what other things they'll be throwing in, and other things that will be happening in general, and also just knowing exactly who will be referenced in episode 10. Because I still don't know fully who will be making the cameo. I think it's supposed to be Baron, but I don't know for sure. So I want to have that confirmation happen, and again, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far, and we'll finally get into episode 10, which is really good. The show so far has been really something interesting. There's definitely been things that I wish could have been done better in some places, but I think in general I am enjoying a number of aspects of it, and I like the armor forms that they've been using. So all that is good and all. So please remember to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. So until then, guys, I am Crazy Sam Wrestling 1, and goodbye, guys.